I knew that, podcasting and video was the best way of getting a message out to the business world, on the basis that I don't like people ringing me up trying to sell me stuff on the telephone that I don't need. B, they've not done any research. Can I speak to the person who deals with your water or your energy or your phone bills or stuff like that? Do your research, mate, and don't ring me up. And I sort of like, do as you would be done by. So I kind of like thought, the industry needs education.
Turn the party up.
Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Yorkshire Podcast Studios behind the scenes podcast, and we're on set. It's like being on a movie set with Graham Mann from switchwatersupply.com, and Graham is one of our longest, most trusted, most gifted individuals who works with us.
Interesting.
And we've just been talking about how, I'm trying to remember actually where we first kind of met, how we started this whole journey to what we're on now. It might be a good idea really just to work out where we've got to. So what does Switch Water Supply do now with YPS? What do you come in here to do?
Educate, keep people up to speed with what we do as a business and how we're growing and what sort of customers we deal with and results that we achieve, because that's really important. Answer questions. So basically, it's a niche market. It's growing, principally through sustainability and high pricing. But we're a disruptor business, because the world of water and utilities, traditionally they've used brokers. We're not brokers. We provide a facility where customers and water retailers and suppliers can do business in a competitive environment.
So you've got a business which needs explaining in some way. It's new.
Yeah.
It's got processes.
Yeah.
It's got positives that come out of it. So you're saving people money, but you need to explain that in a way that people understand really.
And we never got that. We never managed to get that information over, because at the time it was me, a microphone and a camera and a guy behind saying, yeah, you're doing great. Yeah, you're doing great. And I knew I wasn't doing great, because I felt really uncomfortable looking down the lens of a camera and talking to Nikki about stuff, and when I watched it, I found it informative and it was impactful, because one or two of the podcasts we did are particularly about some of the big checks that we got from the water companies. A check for £242,000. There is in front of the camera. Impactful. And I use that podcast every sort of 2 or 3 months, put that out there. It's a short, it lasts about 15 seconds, but it gets a lot of traction.
So the video has been something, and podcasting has been something you've wanted to use for the past, 3 or 4 years? Maybe more than that?
Yeah, but I couldn't find, there was all this bit about social media. Oh yeah, I do Facebook. You can get lots of likes on Facebook. You can do this and do that. No, I don't want to get into the realms of, thousands of followers on Facebook or that. It's I want to, we're the face of the business, and the business has to show a certain professionalism, but also has to show a certain standing, and educate people, educate businesses and customers how we feel that you should conduct business when you're doing your water procurement. And it is structured business. It's hard, very difficult to overturn something that's been traditionally broker-led. And now you're saying to people, try this, it's completely independent, impartial, transparent. You load your data, you can go to the whole market, and then you get all your pricing, all the deals, you can do whatever you like.
So I'll give you an idea, listeners, watchers, about what we kind of found when Graham gave us a call. And I do still remember the phone call when he rang, which was
Kill no punches.
No punches at all. It was like, I don't want a studio. I don't want this. I don't want to come in. And we're like, you're gonna have to come in, because I know I've done this before. We've done these podcasts. They take an hour. They don't look great. I'm not learning anything. I don't feel like I'm using it. I want to do it myself. So I need some information. Because Graham is a guy who gets a lot of information, and you turn it around into something great. And his story generally in businesses and his life is a great story. And a lot of that is getting as much information as possible, educating yourself, and doing it yourself. Which you'd done the thing. You bought the kit, hadn't you?
I've still got the
You've still got the kit to do podcasts and videos.
It's not in reserve, David. I promise to
Of
give
course not. But and I remember halfway through the call, I was like, "Oh, what's he going to use me for here?" But at the same time, I thought, right, there's something we can do here, because at that time in our business, we hadn't really reached out to many businesses externally to say, right, what do you want? What do businesses need? And where is video going? And the last 6-9 months, I think we can definitely see that video. I think you were ahead of the curve in terms of video. Businesses are definitely all about video on their website, on their social media, and it's how you get across the message, which you need to have clearly. First of all, what is the message that you're going to put out there? Now, just to let in a bit of light, I watched the podcast that you'd done with other previous producers before, and immediately, from my perspective as a producer, in audio terms, but also in kind of radio terms, my background, one, I didn't get the story. I couldn't understand what the basis of what you were selling was there. And also, if you can imagine, it was a round table with 4 microphones, and everybody was looking at each other, but no one was looking at that person over there. Nobody was looking at the customer, which is really important. You've got to have that. I when Graham came in, I drew a triangle, and it was, I will talk to Graham on screen, and this is what I do. And it's quite different in terms of podcasts or content, is that I, as the producer, but I'll also step in as the interviewer as well. Graham's the expert. I am the interviewer, interlocutor, and the guy over there, individual, it's a potential customer. And that's how you have to look at this triangle, to a point where I actually drew a face on a camera. And I remember doing that for Graham, because when you first came in, you were very much a case of, and I think a lot of people have that it's difficult to relax in a situation, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, do you know, it's the thing that struck me, and what we needed was leadership, knowledge, and expertise, because I've done bits and pieces of TV. You may have found them. The Water Detective on BBC. Go for it. You know.
I didn't know this. But go on.
3.5 minutes of fame.
Back onto YouTube straight after.
It was good fun. It was a really interesting project. I had to buy my own lunch, which was disappointing. Thanks, BBC.
Your BBC. So
it was
wasting license fee payers money on you, right? Come on.
I've done a bit of radio, thanks to you.
Yes, well,
with the Hartlepool thing. But
come back to that. Yeah,
I think where you scored a big tick from me was, straight away you could see that you knew your onions. It's not a case of buying a mic, buying a little camera, sitting down and talking to someone with your logo behind. That's not it. It has to be much more than that. So you have to recognize, you know, you for example, you said you sat down and went through YouTube and looked at my other videos. I don't even think I even asked you to do that. I think you just did it to get yourself a picture of how we did things in the past, and that will give you an insight into me as an individual under pressure.
Part of that was you told me how much it had cost, and it was way above what I thought it would.
Yeah,
any podcast would be worth. And I'm sure there's a reason behind that, and I've got no issue with that. Particularly, people can charge what people want to pay, but I don't think you got value for money off it. So I was looking to see what
expertise in terms of guidance.
Yeah, it was click and go, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so hence I went out and bought my own gear, because I thought, yeah, click and go, I can do this. Click and go. There was no contribution. You know, it was just I'd worked it all out pretty much, and then I could see Nikki wasn't entirely happy with it. Sometimes, and we just run out of steam. I thought, this is bloody ridiculous.
Well, it is. It's time and effort, and it's one of those things where if a process takes time and effort and money, there's a possibility you can give that money to someone else to take less time, take the effort out of your hands, and to make
it's the investment, isn't it? Really, you talk about ROI. I suppose everyone is in businesses, you know, ROI, return on investment. But sometimes you just got to go with your gut and think, well, actually, you know. He's done a lot of research. He's done this. He's done that. He's now talking to me, And he's actually leading me into a specific situation, giving me lots of advice, lots of if, what's, maybes. You know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? What do you want to do? What's the idea of the podcast? What's the idea of the videos? And once you got that and looked at the basis of what switchwatersupplier.com was all about, you got it. And the rest is history, really, because then, you know, I'm led majority of the time by you. Yes, I do the titles, or if I'm asked specific questions, I fire them through to you and give you a paragraph. But at the end of the day, I leave it down to you to format it and lead most of it. And that's, to be honest, that's the right way to do it, because you're going to get the best out of me if there is a best. You know what I mean?
Well, the best of you is when you're having a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not when you're very kind of
You don't know what to say,
stiff
do you?
and not when so I knew that I needed to have a conversation to get the interesting stuff out of Graham. So which there is interesting stuff. To me, an hour of talk about the water industry was weirdly quite dry.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to watch, and I knew that people in your industry didn't want to watch an hour of that, or very few people did. But also the people that you're trying to get at are people who want to be grabbed pretty quickly. So the short videos that we make, particularly for YouTube Shorts and for LinkedIn, which is where you do a lot of your business, have to grab people straight away and go. And the initial hit was when you said to me, and I never knew this, and I started telling people all over, everyone over it was, did you know that you can switch your water supplier if you're in business? You can't do it if you're residential like you can with gas and electric, but did you know you can switch your water supplier and save money on your contracts? That is the advert straight away. And I say advert, and I mean, it is as clear as that. It's a marketing advertising slogan, which we just need to make as much of as possible. So we said it at the start of every short, we said it in every short video, which is what we came to create. And actually, I think it's something that's growing certainly on LinkedIn, on YouTube, in terms of business podcasts. It's not, you have to go for your 45, 50-minute podcast, and they still have their place. Absolutely, those video podcasts. But somewhere in between the long podcast and the short, there is the 10 to 15-minute explainer. Still entertaining. It will grab you. You'll be educated at the same time.
Well, look at the Karma Love Day. I mean, Karma, I've known Karma for years. She's been in the water industry for years. Heads up the Water Report, or the UK Water Report, as it now known. Yeah. She writes water industry news for the Major Energy Users Council and others. Highly respected in the industry, connected like no other. She's got far more connections than I have. That's a fact, Karma. But I wanted her on a video because she had so much to give, not in terms of promoting our business, but to the wider audience.
Well, this is
the stuff she's told me about, you know, the smart meters, the stuff she told me about the shortage of water over the next 20, 30 years. We're in deep doo-doo, you know. Yeah. But for someone else within the water industry to take the trouble to come on and talk to us, and she was quite shocked. She said, "Oh, this is a professional setup. I was expecting something different." Well, that something different was probably what we used to produce.
Yeah, it's not just a Zoom or a Teams call, and the difference in that as well with the guests that we get on, but also the various topics that you're talking about. They're all in the industry, and it's about being a thought leader, and that's the next stage of what we are hoping to turn Graham into. Well, he already is. He's an industry leader. He's got opinions. He's got a business that is a disruptor in the industry, but also it's necessary. The industry has to change. The industry is changing because there's so much going on in the water industry right now, and there needs to be someone with their finger on the pulse, and Graham is that person. So for us, we identify Graham as the person who's out front, needs help in terms of just that, getting that conversation going, because oddly, it will be better sometimes when we switch the camera off, and we would sometimes not switch the camera off. So we put those out, we'd show him them. But at the same time, we knew that he was so much better. Or when you're relaxed, you have, you just get that across better. There isn't, what do I say now? And I think that's what a lot of people come to us and say, okay, do I need a script? Do I need... No,
we had a script in the other day.
We had a script, and it was very soon thrown out the window. We had a script, and
you ignored it.
Of course, to write that. There were bullet points because I knew that good business people know what their business is about. If you cannot do the elevator pitch of a business, you shouldn't be in business. So you shouldn't have those 6-10 points. You think, I've got to read all these out because these are the things I've written. I've got to get them right. Well, you don't have those 6 to 10 bullet points when you're in a meeting with your next big client, do you?
Yeah.
You've got them in your head. You know exactly what you're going to say. You know the hooks that will grab people to get into your business. And you know that if you can do that on camera, that one person who you're over having coffee with, think of the 500 people who are sitting there watching something that they want to be engaged with because they've clicked on the video. They haven't just been given it to them on YouTube. They haven't just been thrown to them in an advert break in the middle of Coronation Street. These 500 people who are watching your video want to watch you and want to know more about you because they have been driven in some way by an algorithm, by a hashtag, by whatever. So it's targeted marketing. And that's why we're doing it. And I think you're seeing it work. I'm hoping you're seeing it working because you keep coming back, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I'm rather critical of some of the podcasts and videos that I see on LinkedIn from energy consultants in the utilities market, and they talk about energy. They talk about water, but it's too staid. They give nothing away. They don't have guests on, or they have a guest from one of the guys that's a project manager and stuff like, and they're just telling you about their service and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like it's particularly informative, and it's done in a very slick way, whereas ours is a different format, and I think it's more.
I am slick, Graham.
Yeah,
come on.
But
no, it's a fair point. You can be too shiny and too slick, can't you? People, and you lose the trust then, because the conversation is what people like.
Yeah, I'd like to get more guests on. So Karma, come on, get on.
She's been on. Get some more on.
I need to. Well, I've asked a couple of directors from some of the water retail companies, and there's this reticence about coming on, whether or not they're. I don't know. Perhaps they have some illusion it's some tin pot firm in the middle of Leeds, to set up a few cameras and a few speakers, and we got some fancy lights and away it is. Well, that's not the case, is it? Really, it's the skills and the experience and the expertise you've got to pull off a really, really superb product and get that message out there in so many different ways. And you can get a studio, you can hire a studio anywhere in Leeds. I want a studio for an hour and it's so much fun. You get a podcast, get speakers, get cameras, someone to do the recording. But you've got nobody like a presenter who can get down and dirty. And you have to accept criticism, don't you? And I do. Not many people in my life actually criticize me openly. They might say,
this is just me.
yeah, you just come out and say it. Well, that's the only way. But it works. Relationship works, doesn't it? And it works because you're interested in doing what you're doing.
Well, I'm interested in what you're doing. And it's.
I've got so much more I'd like to do as it grows.
Well, you always come up with ideas, which is great, and we really do appreciate that. Webinars we do.
I've got to.
You on the list?
I've got to get my guests. I know I've asked John Reynolds from Castle Water on a couple of occasions, so come on, John. And some other directors. See, John Reynolds now, he started Castle Water from scratch. He bought Thames Water business, and now 7, 8, 9 years ago, it's a £500-600 million turnover business. He's buying other water companies, and at one point, he put an offer in for Thames.
So this is where you're now pushing, not just about, you're pushing your boundaries, aren't you? Because you're looking to get out there to be that industry leader. Again, we're talking thought leadership here. We're talking being in the industry to shine lights on a part of the industry which needs to change and hasn't changed.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. I'd like to get someone Thames Water on. It will happen because, I'm feeling that the time is rapidly becoming ripe. A webinar for a start is something I'm very, very interested in exploring with you guys. And I said to you before, I think, it's quite a long journey and we could do different things. I mean, I don't do enough. Now, I said this to you before, I thought, I don't do enough in the field to have someone to do with a camera and a microphone sort of like out there doing my thing. But I do leak detection, you see.
Yes.
And now, and daft as it seems, with a listening stick. And this old piece of steel with a wooden cup at the end.
You're not quite dowsing.
Yeah, well, we used it.
You douse? Okay, there you go.
No, John.
See, this is all new stuff.
One of our guys uses that, but we found a leak for one of the big leisure companies. that no one else could find. It was 50 grand a year leak, been going on for years, and we found it within about 2 or 3 hours doing night work through listening. So, and I put the stick down, I marked off the point at the pool side where the leak was, and then 4 months later they started to dig it up, and there it was.
There
Got
it was.
pictures and they got the video. So that was a 40 grand a year saving.
So again, we can the idea is that we can then come out to you when you're on site. We can do a podcast maybe in a factory or whatever with people you have actually saved money for.
Well, absolutely. That's that for me would be the epitome of to aim for. It'd be something really to aim for, because then it becomes more impactful, doesn't it? Then we're going from, we still do the podcast, we still do the videos as that, but that's the foundation, and then we could grow to more different types of things, like going out into the field and seeing some of the stuff that we actually work with and speak to the, like Eddie at Beats and Clark, for example. We're working with him. That great guy came up through the ranks, and I went down to, every time I go in, have a meeting with one of the directors or that in the boardroom, Eddie Pokes says, "Oh, hi Graham, I saw you pull up in your little mini miner, my mini miner with a big batwing on the back." We start talking cars, and before you know where it is, I've got a meeting with someone on the shop floor, and then half an hour later, I'm still in a boardroom talking to him about cars. It's fantastic, I'm really...
The relationships you have with your customers, and you hopefully growing the business through getting more customers.
It's just nice to show, just to put something back in and give the audiences out there a real indication of what we've done with these guys, how they've helped us, and what we've achieved.
Yeah. And an idea about what Graham does here, which is quite different to businesses come in, they'll do podcasts, they'll take shorts off the podcast, there'll be a 45, 50-minute podcast that they'll do, and people like that, they'll do two a month maybe. We've got some companies who do them weekly. Graham's slightly different, because we decided that podcast wasn't exactly going to work for him, and the content we could create in that 45 minutes, as we've just finished doing here, we can actually create a solid kind of 10 to 15-minute video. Off that will come a couple of or 3 shorts, and that's a week's worth of content. And we'll do that every month. We'll do 4 weeks worth of content, won't we? And so you've actually got something new every Monday morning to put out there to the masses, which is not only is it informative, it's short, so it's bite-sized, you can get hold of it, and it's hopefully it's slightly entertaining. That's the idea, that we have a conversation. But also, as we're dealing with now if you're listening to this in the future, but we're here in April of 2025, business prices or water prices have gone up, haven't they? So we're currently dealing with a market which is in turmoil, and we're reacting to it, and we're creating content which is, for now, there's evergreen content we're creating, talking about your business, what you do, but we're talking about actual topics that are relevant and relative to people watching right now. So we can create that content really quickly. We turn it around, we get it out there, and Graham then deals with it and puts it on his socials, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and it's out there, and your face is out there, and my face is out there too as part of it. I really enjoy it, despite what you might think. I really enjoy it because I really enjoy following your business, and I like to kind of get to grips with it and see how we can make it work.
Growing, I mean. And rightly so, because you provide a really integral part of business expansion. And without it, where will we be? What, an advert or a slick marketing video? That's not really the thing. And I watch some of the stuff that you do for, what's the timber merchants?
Howard
Timber, yeah. And it's quite impactful, because it's not slick, is it? It's not. If
that's not a criticism.
No.
It's human. We humanize business. That's the idea. That's how we want to get the people. I mean, yourself and Nikki running the business. Obviously, Howards have a lot more people that they can work with and talk to. But it's not about bringing them on and going. It's about talking to people, getting their stories. And I think we need to talk more about your. We've done episodes on your backstory and different episodes in your life, which is fascinating. I just think it's about the people in the end, and whether that's an individual with the drive like yourself, or a pair of you and Nikki, or one huge business that's got lots of great individual stories. We have to be able to tell them, because that's what will be engaging. And if you can make that connection, people will want to be part of that company. They'll want to buy from them. They'll want to know more about them. They'll want to visit them. They want to have a conversation with them. And that's the only way it can work.
Now we need to do a portrait of Nikki, I think.
Bring her in, get her on. Right. Graham, thank you for allowing us to have this conversation off the back of what's been another great session working with you this morning. You can get in touch with switchwatersupply.com. Graham Mann, if you've got a business and you have a water bill, then he can sort it out and make it a lot cheaper for you, hopefully. Also, all the extra stuff that goes into water efficiency and making sure that the bills go down, even though the prices have gone up.
And if you've got a business that you want to propel your business into the wider world through a media company, then David Eason is your man.
At Yorkshire Podcast Studios.
Yes.
See, it's all about the cross promotion. Lovely stuff. We'll end the podcast here. We'll be back with more from behind the scenes at Yorkshire Podcast Studios. But again, thank you to Graham Mann for being part of this episode. Like, subscribe, follow, and come back for more from behind the scenes at Yorkshire Podcast Studios. So what to do? Bye for now, like you do. Come on.
Well, this is your scene.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Turn the party up.